However, Aftab was commissioned from the United States,
Okay.
and he also got a Top Gun award while in the US Air Force, flying for the
The
US Air
same
Force.
Top Gun, so the famous movie is after Top Gun, if you remember. Movie in the 1980s, I remember.
That's it. Of course, Tom Cruise was slightly,
More glamorous
I think, but Aftab got a Top Gun award
because of his top flying
because
skills.
of his top gunnery skills while flying an aircraft.
Okay.
So Aftab came back, and then he was selected for the F-104 squadron.
Starfighters.
Starfighters, we had one squadron of starfighters, and the best pilots were sent to that squadron. In 6 September 1965, at about 5:30 in the morning, some Indian aircraft were strafing a passenger train at Rahwali railway station.
Okay.
Aftab was scrambled to intercept them. The other aircraft with them had a technical problem and turned back. Aftab flew on, and
Without a wingman.
without a wingman, and he flew through the French Mystère aircraft of the Indian Air Force. He flew through that formation. Then he shot down one of them and damaged another. And so that was what Aftab did on 6 September. After that, on I think it was 8th or 9th September, that the Air Force needed to find out the damage that they had inflicted at various airfields. So Aftab came up with the idea of flying a photo recce mission with a 104, in which he suggested that the F-104, two-seater F-104, flew inverted,
Like.
and one of the pilots in the aircraft would take a photograph while the other would fly. So he flew, and Squadron Leader Middlecourt, his squadron commander, who was also awarded Sitare-e-Jurrat later, was taking the photograph. So this was the first use of the 104 in that role. Later, he was given a Sitare-e-Jurrat, but he returned it saying that he was just doing his duty.
I mean, I think maybe he's the only officer in the history who's returned such an award.
I'm
sir.
not sure about that, but
But
that is what.
that shows the level of character he had, sir. That he thought
I
this was
think,
the duty, and this award never meant much.
I don't think soldiers fight for awards. They fight for a cause, and awards are just by the way.
Just to encourage them. Right?
Because there are, I think, the number of soldiers who have not been awarded and who deserved awards are more than those who have been awarded. In 1971, Aftab led the strike on Pathankot on 3rd December.
The famous strike on Pathankot.
Aftab, as a squadron leader, led the strike against Pathankot on 3rd December 71. And this was a strike and several others which I think caused Indira Gandhi's voice to tremble when she addressed her nation on the night of 3rd December. After 71, Aftab was promoted wing commander, and he served in Syria as a senior instructor, flight instructor in 73, 74. After that, he came back and resigned from the Air Force.
Now, moving on to the next gentleman, so that's Flight Lieutenant Mushtaq Alam Khan. Again, Air Force. Mushtaq Alam Khan Shahid, sir.
That's right. Mushtaq also joined the Air Force, and he was also commissioned from the United States Academy. He came back, and he was also selected for the F-104 squadron.
Okay.
So in 1965, two brothers were serving in the same squadron, Aftab and Mushtaq,
Both on F-104 starfighters.
both were F-104 starfighters. Uh, because senior officers were wanting to fly, uh, so therefore junior officers were relegated to uh, non-flying tasks. However, in the later part of the war, Mushtaq flew 8 to 10 missions on starfighters, but never had a combat engagement. And that was mainly because the Indian Air Force used to turn tail and run whenever they heard of a F-104 in the area.
I mean, that was one of the fastest aircrafts, and though the maneuverability wasn't that much, but it was a symbol of threat for them. And this is what I've heard, that the moment they would hear a starfighter in the air, sir, they would not even dare to take off. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard from Air Force pilots, and the radars would detect the speed of the aircraft, and they would say it's a starfighter, and the Indian Air Force would vacate.
That kind of impression it had. Sergeant Major Ijaz Alam Khan, sir.
Major Ijaz Alam Khan was about 4 years older than me, and he had applied for joining the Pakistan Army in 1965 before the September War.
Okay.
But he joined the Pakistan Military Academy in the first week of October 65, after the war had ended.
Okay.
He was commissioned also in 13 Lancers, and his regiment participated in the Bada Pind action in 1971. Ijaz is credited with having knocked out a couple of Indian tanks in that engagement, but then he was killed, and his body was recovered by his crew. So Ijaz is buried at Khariyan.
You must have been very close to him, sir. Because the immediate brother is always the one, you're more close to.
Yes, I was, and I also got most of my beatings from him.
Now coming on to this gentleman, sir. His name is Lieutenant General Javed Alam Khan, sir. I think that would be a little difficult for you to tell.
There's nothing much to say really, because I neither participated in the 65 war. I did participate in the 71 war, but at that time I was in the artillery.
When were you commissioned, sir?
I was commissioned in April 71.
April 71, okay.
So in December 71, we were in Cham. In fact, there were 3 brothers in Cham. There was Feroz, Shamim, and myself. And I was in an artillery regiment, and we fired a lot of shells at the enemy, but nothing of particular interest. After that, I've seen a little bit of action in Siachen, and after that, there hasn't been much action to write home about.
So, but you took part in the 71 war, obviously.
Yes,
you were
yes,
a
I
part
did.
of that.
Yes, I
But
did.
no, second part, sir, but you never opted for SSG or anything?
I probably would have opted for SSG, but my problem was that I was initially posted to artillery, and then I converted to Armored Corps. By the time I came to Armored Corps, 2 years had already gone by, and I was already late in the Armored Corps lineup, so I had to do various courses and so on. And by the time I finished with those courses, it was a little late.
So why did you change the arm, sir? What was wrong with that really, and what made you go for the armed corps, sir?
Well, I never wanted to join artillery. I always wanted to join Armored Corps. But for certain reasons, I was sent to artillery, and I didn't like it then.
So you were more interested in the tank battle.
I was interested in the tank battle, and maybe I'm lucky that I never saw one.
But sir, because after that, sir, things were very different for both the countries. Though, even as of today, sir, the eastern border is pretty hostile, and there are rumors that the Indians might, go for an adventure somewhere in Kashmir or somewhere to surprise our military or Pakistan as a nation, sir. Do you think, sir, Pakistan and India can go for a war? Is there an option for both the countries, being nuclear, being so powerful at the moment?
I think if both sides are sensible, they will not opt for war. But if they opt for war, or one side opts for war, and right now it seems to be the Indian side looking towards that, then the results are going to be horrendous.
Looking at the current scenario, so look at the line of control, look at the working boundary, this constant phenomenon of Indian shelling, killing our civilians, injuring, they have injured more than 100 so far, so women are being killed, children are being killed. They practically hit our homes across the border. What sort of message is that, sir? What exactly does a country mean when they do this?
We should look back and see that when did this really start and how is it escalating. It has, of course, escalated since Prime Minister Modi took over in India.
Absolutely.
And what his agenda is, everybody is familiar with.
RSS, Hindutva.
But this has now been aggravated by something else. And that has been aggravated by the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And India would not want us to get that, because once that happens, we are going to be far ahead of where India is.
That is going to be the
right
game
now.
changer for sure, yes.
That is going to be a game changer. So they don't want that. So they want to push us into making a mistake. Now what happens is that because there's a working boundary, which is actually an international border, but it's called a working boundary because it's between Pakistan and Kashmir. On our side, a civilian gets killed, he's a Pakistani. On the Indian side, we do not target civilians. So they are just trying, by killing people like this, is forcing us into doing something bigger.
Primarily, they're provoking you.
They are trying to provoke us, and we should understand the game and not be provoked.
But sir, how long can we remain silent, sir? If your border is so hostile, you have to sort of give some impression back.
So what we have to do is that we have to target their military installations and the military personnel.
That means that's a war.
No, that's not war.
Which is when you're hitting their military installations.
Right? So we kill them, we kill their people in uniform while they try to target civilians.
So another important point now, Ajahn Saab, looking at the current scenario, so obviously Pakistan military is very strong, but so the case is with the Air Force obviously, and we have a limited navy, not as big as the Indians. It seems that the Indians have a very different design, and they want to become the regional power. And those 4 wars which we have fought were all against our hostile enemy on the eastern border. Looking at the Indian design, sir, which is to increase their military, they're planning to get more aircraft carriers, they want to expand in the Indian Ocean and challenge the trade route and the oil route, and primarily to put a check on the Chinese. Now, looking at that scenario, so don't you think that now it's high time for us as Pakistanis and as a nation to stop depending and relying on the Americans all the time, sir, and start looking forward towards Russia and China and other regional players? But having said that, the kind of foreign policy the Indians have adopted over a period of time with Iran and Afghanistan, and even with UAE recently, sir, that seems to be the game changer for them and for us also.
I think there are several things that you just stated, and I'll have to take them one by one. First of all, you talked about the Indian Navy. Now, the aims that you're ascribing to the Indians of domination of trade routes and so on, that's basically related to the Indian Navy. But when India has got 4,000 tanks, are they going to cross the Himalayas into China?
They're not meant for them.
They can't do that. They can't even be used in Bangladesh because of the number of rivers there. They definitely are not going to Burma. So who are they meant for? They're meant for us. The thousands of artillery guns that the Indians have, is that going to be used against China? With the Himalayas and Tibet in between? So that's also meant for us. The 1 million or 1.2 million Indian army infantry soldiers and so on, are they going to China? They're coming for us. So when I hear people on news channels and so on saying that, the Indian forces are meant against China, or I read in international publications that that is what that's meant for, people need to look again. It's meant for us, and we have to have whatever force that is required to counter it. Now, keeping a force is an expensive hobby. So, you were talking about not looking towards other countries. First of all, we have to look at ourselves. What I read is, I am told that the revenue collection in Pakistan is only 10 to 15% of what it should be, which means that a huge number of people are not paying taxes.
That's correct.
We are also told that the defense budget of Pakistan is 18% of the total money available. But if revenue collection is 10%, and of that 10%, 18% is going into defense, so it's a huge amount of money. But nobody ever thinks of, if we raise the revenue collection from 10% to 20%, that
The budget-
18% becomes 9%. And if from 20% it goes to 40%, that 9% becomes 4.5%. And if it goes to 80%, that 4.5% becomes 2.25%. So revenue collection is the problem, not the defense budget.
It's a very important point raised. Now, sir, looking at the current situation, our forces, they're fighting in North Waziristan, and every other day we hear that one officer or some Jawans, they're being martyred. There is an operation going on in Karachi, there is an operation going on in Balochistan, and we all know who is behind that. I mean, the Indians, they are giving them equipment, they're financing them, they're sort of engaging Pakistan military on all the accounts. Is this a part of the fourth or the fifth generation warfare, sir? To create problems for the country within? And what do you think we need to do? Are we doing what exactly we are supposed to do, sir, under the command of General Rahil?
I think one of the aims of United States